All right, today we're cracking open the official court records of a business partnership that didn't just crumble, it absolutely imploded. We're going to follow the paper trail and see how a dream team-up spiraled into an all-out legal war where everything hinged on one single explosive move.
So let's just get right to it. Here's the big question. How on earth does a perfect 50-50 partnership built on total equality turn into a crazy 96-4 blowout? I mean, how does one partner end up with basically everything while the other is left with just the scraps? That question is the heart of this entire mess. And get this whole thing went down fast. In October 2017, they're equal partners. Just a few months later, the relationship is completely toxic. Then on May 11th, Anthony steps down as a director, but crucially, keeps his 50% ownership. But just 10 days later, 10 days, Gao makes a game-changing move. By June, they're suing each other. The whole thing came crashing down in a matter of weeks. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty of how this partnership just completely fell apart. You know, it all started out so promising, but it quickly soured into this all-out war for control.
Okay, so let's meet the two people at the center of this storm. On one side, you've got Lim Anthony. He's the founder, the guy who managed to secure the valuable Aussino brand license. And on the other side, there's Gao Wenxi, the partner who came in with the cash. But here's where things took a major turn. Anthony stepped down as a director, which left Gao holding all the cards, running the show day-to-day as the sole director.
So first up, let's look at this whole thing from Anthony's side of the fence. His case, when you boil it all down, was pretty simple. He argued that he was unfairly and illegally squeezed out of the very company that he started. In the beginning, everything was picture perfect. I mean, textbook stuff. A clean 50-50 partnership. Each of them had the exact same number of shares. The scales were perfectly balanced. This is the before picture. And then this happened. It's like a bomb went off in the company's structure. Overnight, Anthony's 50% stake was just crushed. It shriveled down to less than 4%. And Gao, her share skyrocketed to 96%. This one image right here. This is the exact moment the partnership died and the legal war began.
So you're probably wondering, how is a change that huge even possible? Well, it all comes down to this one number, 2.4 million. That is how many new shares the court records show Gao issued to herself for just $1 apiece. That single move just wiped out Anthony's ownership, turning it into almost nothing. Now, that action became the absolute heart of Anthony's lawsuit. It's a legal concept called minority oppression. It sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty straightforward. It basically means that the people in control of a company can't just run wild and do whatever they want. If their actions are unfair and go against what a minority shareholder had a right to expect, well, that's illegal. And that idea of fair expectation was about to become the key to this whole case.
And it wasn't just about the shares either. Anthony was also suing to get his money back. He claimed Gao personally still owed him $100,000 for her initial stake in the company. And on top of that, he said the company itself owed him another $450,000 from a loan he'd given it.
But of course, like any good fight, there are two sides to the story. Gao fired back with a completely different version of what happened. She argued that, hold on a second, she was the real victim here. That she'd been misled from day one, and her actions were just to try and save the business.
Her entire defense really hinged on this claim of misrepresentation. She told the court that Anthony had essentially lied to her about three fundamental things. First, who really owned that valuable Aussino brand. Second, whether their company actually had the legal right to use it. And third, how much cash was actually in the bank when she agreed to invest. But when Gao actually took the witness stand, her stories started to get a little shaky under questioning. The judge pointed out some pretty glaring inconsistencies between her sworn written statement and what she was saying in person. That bank balance she was supposedly promised, it went from at least $100,000 to a very specific $130,000. The date of a crucial phone call shifted. And maybe the most damaging part, she suddenly remembered being there for that call, a detail that was nowhere to be found in her original statement.
The judge's takeaway from all this was blunt. In the final judgment, she wrote, and I'm quoting directly here, "I formed the distinct impression that Gao was inventing this new evidence on the stand in an attempt to bolster her case." Oof. You know, for a witness, having a judge say they think you're making stuff up on the fly is about as devastating as it gets.
So there you have it. Two completely different stories. One side says I was squeezed out, and the other says I was lied to. The court had to pick a side and decide what really happened. So, let's get to the verdict.
And the final verdict? It wasn't even close. It was a landslide for Anthony. His claim for that $100,000? He won. His main claim of minority oppression? He won that too. On the flip side, Gao's big claim that she'd been misled? That failed. And the company's own counterclaims against Anthony? Almost all of them failed. It was pretty much a clean sweep.
So why did Anthony win so decisively on that oppression claim? Well, it all came down to one critical piece of paper, a shareholders' agreement. That agreement was crystal clear that issuing new shares needed mutual consent. By acting all on her own, Gao had broken that fundamental promise. The judge called her actions a visible departure from the standards of fair dealing.
Now, with the verdict in, the court couldn't just leave things in a mess. It had to figure out how to unscramble this egg. And that brings us to the final orders from the court and the really powerful lessons we can take away from this whole corporate divorce. The court's fix was a clear three-step process. First, they just hit the undo button. Those 2.4 million new shares were canceled, which instantly put Anthony back to being a 50% owner. Second, recognizing that this partnership was broken beyond repair, the court ordered Gao to buy out Anthony's entire 50% stake for a fair price. And finally, step 3, settle all the debts. Gao and the company were ordered to pay Anthony all the money he was owed. So what's the ultimate lesson here? Well, trust is a great foundation for a business, but a clear, written shareholder agreement is the steel frame that holds everything together when things get ugly. That single document is what defined fairness in the eyes of the court, and it ultimately decided this entire case. And it leaves us with a critical question for any entrepreneur out there. What's protecting you from your own partner's unilateral move?